It is 6:02 p.m. on Monday, May 19th. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Winooski City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, agenda review. Any changes tonight? All right. Public comments? Okay, there's no one here. If you are attending via Zoom and you're not here for something that's on tonight's agenda, now would be the time. You can use the chat or raise hand feature to make a comment. They're with CSWD. I thought so. Okay. All right, so no public. We'll move on to our consent agenda. We have our council and liquor control meeting minutes from May 5th, the accounts payable warrant from May 15th, payroll warrant for May 27, May 10, subsequent payout for February and March, a resolution recognizing the contributions of Waking Windows Music Festival, an event permit for the farmers market, the Vermont Community Development Program Anti-Displacement and Relocation Plan approval, and a request for use of unassigned reserves to cover land records overage in fiscal year 25-26. Any concerns about tonight's agenda? Or sorry, consent agenda? No. Okay, so hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. We are moving on to council reports. Can you kick us off, Aurora?
Sure. It'll be very short. I don't have anything to report this time.
Fabulous.
Infrastructure met this past Wednesday. We had a pretty full agenda, covered a proposed Hoods Crossing traffic signal and sidewalk expansion. During that meeting, we reviewed proposal for sidewalk on the north side between Russell and Hoods Crossing, Hood Street, and the south side, the same distance. And it was favored by the DPW as well as by the commissioners to have it on the south side. So everyone was in agreement, and there was a unanimous vote of approval to have it on the south side. After that, we had a presentation from VIC on the grant, the pass-through grant that the city received for electric vehicle charging stations for planning grant for the city. So that was introductory review, and we anticipate hearing more in the next couple of months. And I think Revi will be leading the public engagement side of things for that grant research. And then the group just reviewed the priorities leading up to our council retreat on Thursday. So those were the 3 topics we covered for this past week.
Thanks.
So last week, the Planning Commission met. The Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission returned to discuss the future status Winooski might adopt for Act 250 exemption. The commission will meet again this Thursday, May 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to do a side-by-side of Act 250 review versus our local regulations to confirm there's no concerning gaps before sending a recommendation to us, who need to make a final decision to send back to the Regional Planning Commission. Their meeting also included a public hearing for the inclusionary zoning amendments they've been working on with the Housing Commission. No members of the public appeared for this public hearing. There were some minor tweaks that the city attorney wanted to see, so those will be back also on the Thursday meeting for a quick review before deciding what to forward to council. The Finance Commission also met and dug into the small business loan program. It was a pretty detailed discussion about how to adjust parameters on the program to make sure to make it better meet its goals and reduce some of the challenges that we have seen recently. So staff received their feedback and is going to bring some draft updates to the June meeting to try to hopefully wrap up. That is it for me.
So, downtown Winooski has not met since we last gathered. They'll be meeting this Wednesday. I met with Safe Healthy Connected People on May 13th, and we received a presentation from the library committee. The meeting was in the library, which was very nice. A few updates. First, that the recreation departments are getting fully staffed up or are fully staffed up or close to. And an interesting fact from that is from the lifeguards, 85% are returning lifeguards from last year, which I just thought was really nice. It was, folks who already know our community and enjoyed working with our community, and they're coming back. So that was awesome. Some interesting facts about the library, or I'm sure you already know all of these, but the library's got 10,188 items that are in its physical collection. And that's not just books, it's things like park passes, yard tools, winter activity, gear, and so much more. So the library just isn't books, so check it out, see what else you can do there. There's 11 online databases that you can access if you're a member of the Winooski Library. And we saw 3,430 members of our community be library patrons. So great usage at our library, which is awesome. And the library did 448 programs the past year. So honestly, just a ton of work that those folks are doing over there. So thanks to the Library Commission for supporting them and library staff. And then just a shout out to the Friends of the Winooski Library that isn't currently very active at the moment. So there was a conversation about how they are looking for folks to be more engaged with that arm. And essentially it's separate from the commission, it's separate from the library, and their goal is to support the library in its efforts through fundraising. So if you're interested in that, I believe folks at the library can point you in the direction of how to re-engage with the Friends of Winooski, Library, I should say. That's all I got.
Thank you. We'll move on to city updates. Elaine.
Yes, and I just want to back up a little bit and appreciate Thomas's pointing out that we have 85% returning lifeguards. That's not only a testament to the greatness of our community and how people want to keep coming back and working with this community. It's also a testament to the team, which they are part of, right? Creating that team. There's leaders coming up through the ranks there, from swim team to lifeguard to lead lifeguard. So that's been really great. And also appreciation to the community for paying them an adequate wage so that it's realistic for them to keep coming back and staying on when they're here. That is not a common experience across Vermont pools. So appreciation all around. In terms of the city updates, so top of my 2 announcements today, please support Main Street businesses and then you can win prizes. The Winooski Mosaic Receipt Raffle is now live. Every time you shop, eat out, or use a service on Main Street, and there's many among all 3 of those categories, you are supporting our community during construction and getting a chance to win special prizes or gift certificates. All you have to do is save your receipt from a Main Street business, write your contact information on the back, and submit it. Receipt from the last 30 days can be submitted online or in person. Online, it would be at downtownwinooski.org/mosaic. In person, it would be at City Hall, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can check out the City and Downtown Winooski social media channels to share this promotion and to encourage your families, friends, and neighbors to support businesses on Main Street and remind yourself of the rules. If you're looking to get more connected to the community and shape our city, we are welcoming new applications and old applications. Residents with relevant experience, skills, interests, or willingness to engage are encouraged to apply for board, commission, and committee seats that expire on June 30, 2025. Council and staff welcome a diversity of voices, and if you've never served before, we will do our best to support you in your service. Current members may indicate their interest in being reappointed. They don't have to reapply, literally. And residents who are not currently serving are welcome to apply with the application. To learn more, visit the news update section on our website at winooskivt.gov.
Thank you. All right, we will jump into our regular items. And first up on for discussion, the Chittenden Solid Waste District fiscal year 2025-26 budget presentation. All right. And then, Paul, would you please bring over Sarah and Jen?
Good evening. How are you? Make sure my audio is on. Okay, well, good. Is it possible for Jen Holiday to have the ability to share her screen? She was going to drive our presentation tonight, if that's okay.
Absolutely, go for it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Jen is getting squared away. In the meantime, thank you again for the time on the agenda. My name is Sarah Reeves. I'm the Executive Director for the Chittenden Solid Waste District. And we are here to present our fiscal 2026 budget for the council's consideration. Jen is having some difficulty.
Sorry, you didn't see that when I just shared?
You saw your Zoom screen, Jen?
Okay, sorry about that.
Feel like
Hang
I-
on.
Okay, so I can give it a go.
Oops,
Apologize for the delay.
I have to get out of sharing and re-share, sorry. Okay. Ah,
I can jump into the bottom line. The bottom line this year is that we are anticipating a budget for next year, let me go back up a little bit, that is essentially the same as this year. So we are not anticipating much difference from fiscal 25 to fiscal 26. And for folks who are not familiar with CSWD, we are a municipality chartered in 1987, but at the request of our member municipalities, and Jen's moving my stuff around. Here we go. And to manage the solid waste generated within Chittenden County. So one of the things that we do is we want to make sure that folks know where we generate our revenue from, how we receive revenue, and how we do not receive revenue. Our revenue is generated from three main sources. Tipping fees or user fees, and those are the fees that folks pay directly to us at, say, our drop-off center or our compost facility to manage materials that they bring directly to us. The sale of materials, so the sale of compost, sale of topsoil, sale of recycling, sale of local colored paint, and the solid waste management fee, which is a fee that is charged by haulers at the point of disposal. So either at the transfer station in Williston or directly at Coventry. Where we do not receive any revenue, we do not receive any revenue directly from our member cities and towns. So we do not send you a bill, and we are committed to not sending you a bill. So we don't receive any revenue from property taxes, nothing, no local taxes or anything like that. One of the things I also like to talk about too is how Chittenden County is doing. We're always asked. And of the 307,000 tons of material, all solid waste material generated in Chittenden County in the last year or so, fully 1/3 of that was landfilled. And of that 124,000 tons that was landfilled, 1/3 were organics. And so we want to make sure that those organics, 50% of the 124 were could have been diverted. And of that 60,000, 32,000 were organic. So half of the material that could have been diverted was organic. So we're focusing a lot of our attention on that stream. And so a lot of our education outreach is on getting food scraps out of the waste stream, out of the landfill. So again, I mentioned our fiscal 26 bottom line, and that is we're expecting revenue in the amount of $16,249,000. We subtract out the cost of goods sold, which is the cost of paint buckets and peat moss, things like that. We end up just over $16 million, and we're budgeting just under $16 million. So we're basically if all things proceed as planned, we are at a break even for fiscal 26. And looks like Jen is still struggling. I am going to try to share my screen here. So you want to just see the next couple of thoughts. Okay. So right here, let's see if we can get my version. Okay. Now our business. And we'll go down to the next. So this is, again, that pie chart of where our income is generated from. You see those three main buckets: tip fees, sale materials, solid waste management fee. This particular piece is at 24% based on $30 a ton, and that's going to become important in a moment. Our expenses, again, tend to be two main buckets. One is materials management and one is payroll. Those are the two large buckets of our expenses. Materials management is what we call hauling services. So this is what we pay to haulers to move materials either from our drop-off centers to the landfill or to move recycling out to market. It's also where we budget the contract that we have with Casella to manage the daily operations of our materials recycling facility. Again, as I mentioned before, fiscal 26 compared to fiscal 25, there is not much difference. A little bit increase in revenue, slight decrease in expense, basically same numbers year to year. Fee changes for the next year, not too many. There are a couple at our drop-off centers. A small bag is going to be increased from $3 for 13 gallons to $4 for 18 gallons. Mattresses are also going up, and that is because we have a new contract with our mattress vendor. Their prices to us have increased, so our prices are going to increase for our customers as well. No increase at the material recycling facility or the organics recycling facility or the environmental depot. There will be an increase in our solid waste management fee, that fee that is charged to haulers. And that fee is not a new fee. This fee has been in place since 1993, and it is, again, the per ton fee charged to haulers for Chittenden County generated solid waste disposed at the landfill in Coventry. So those who are making a lot of trash will pay a proportionally larger share of that fee. And this fee is used to help support district activities and some of our facilities to ensure that we can carry out our mission on your behalf. So it fully supports administration, finance, compliance, IT, outreach and education. It, in some years, it partially supports our drop-off centers, although this year drop-off centers will be self-sufficient. It will minimally support our compost facility this year. It supports our environmental depot and rover at about 85% of the budget, 80 to 85% of the budget. It also supports our maintenance and roll-off division. It also helps support some of our reserve funds. So our capital reserve, closed landfill reserve, operations, the community cleanup fund, excuse me, and a new one that we're structuring this year for the new MRF project. And that is this is why we're increasing the fee this year, is to help support this new materials recycling facility capital project. So we are anticipating a project funding gap of about $4 million. And this was started with delays due to COVID. We had wanted to start this project back in 2020. We all know what happened. We were delayed by about 18 to 20 months before we could really ramp up the project again. So in that time, inflation just skyrocketed, as we all know. But the main issue causing this funding gap was the loss of our initial site that we owned on Redmond Road, leading us to need to purchase a new site. That purchase was $3 million that we did complete in March, that was unanticipated, did not budget for, had in our capital reserve, but was certainly not at the original budget. So when we looked at ways to close that gap, there were several options that we considered. We definitely wanted to avoid taking on more long-term debt. When we asked voters to approve our initial bond back in 2022, 82% of those who voted on that bond voted to approve it. So we know that Chittenden County voters are highly supportive of this project and really care deeply about recycling. We didn't want to take on more long-term debt because our long-term debt is guaranteed. It's backed by our member municipalities. So if CSWD ceases to exist for any reason, and we still owe any money on that bond, it will then be the responsibility of our member towns on a per capita basis to pay back whatever the balance is. So we did not want to increase the risk to our member municipalities. Other options we looked at and dismissed were per capita fees, municipal assessment, increasing the current MRF tip fee, increasing drop-off center fees. Per capita fees and municipal assessments, we would have needed to have told you the need for this back in November. And back in November, we still did not know the full funding gap at that time. So when we realized what that was looking like. It was about mid-March. So we knew we couldn't go to you and did not want to go to you with this request, because you would have needed to have recovered that from property taxes. And the last thing we want to do is increase anyone's burden for property taxes. So the solid waste management fee is actually the most equitable fee, because we all pay it. If we generate trash in Chittenden County, we are paying this fee. And it is already incorporated into overall fees charged by haulers to their customers, a component of the bill. So haulers are charged the fee of disposal, pass that along to customers within their bill. So the average household in Chittenden County generates just over a ton of landfill trash each year. The average tends to be about $50 a month for trash services. It can be a little higher, a little lower, depending on if you bundle in food scraps or if you have weekly service as opposed to twice a month or once a month. So at that average of $50 and at the current $30 a ton for the solid waste management fee, our share, CSWD's share of that $50 bill is just under $3 a month. At $40 a ton, our share will be just under $4 a month. So the new rate I'll couch it, be an increase of less than $1 a month per average household. And when we're looking at where we needed to go with this solid waste management fee, one of the things I also wanted to look at was adjusting how we determine the fee and how frequently we make adjustments. So I asked my director of finance and our IT director to take a look back 20 years and run the math and say, have we been increasing our solid waste management fees starting in 2003, according to the CPI, cost of inflation, what would that have looked like? So what you're seeing on the screen now, the solid orange line that stair steps through the middle of the page, that is the actual fee. So that is $17.61 in 2003. We stepped it up in 2009. We did another big step in 2014, and then a small step in 2024 to get to the $30 a ton today. Had we been adjusting for the CPI, the Northeast Urban Class BC, which is what we use to determine our cost of living adjustment for our employees each year, that is that dashed green line. And you can see that we would have met inflation in 2010. We surpassed inflation in 2015, but then we lagged again behind inflation in 2021. So for good chunks of that 22-year period, we lagged behind the general CPI. The dotted pink line, that is the garbage and trash index. That index, being our industry, has seen us only meet that cost of doing business for 1 year in the 22-year history of this review. Had we been increasing small adjustments every year according to the garbage and trash CPI today, or more rightly in February and March, we would be at $39.21. So increasing to $40 is really just bringing us to even with the cost of doing business in our industry. So with that realization, I've recommended to our board, and they've agreed that to start to look at revising this approach, to start to utilize small, regular annual adjustments, keeping pace with inflation, and to tie these adjustments to a CPI produced by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and look at both the garbage and trash CPI and the Northeast Urban Class BC. And so we would staff would bring the proposed budget to our board as required in our charter by December 1. We then have a hearing in January. Our finance committee reviews the proposed budget and any comments received at the hearing in February. And then they make their suggestions, and the board receives the revised budget in either March or April, depending on the extent of the revisions. The Board of Commissioners will then determine whether or not there is an adjustment necessary. And if so, then it will be according to what was either recommended by staff or as adjusted by finance committee. And then that is their decision. And then it comes to you for your vote. So again, this is what this is going to look like at $40 a ton. So that means that the solid waste management fee is now about 29% of our revenue going into the next year. And if you remember, the income at 30 was about 16.2. At 40, it's about 17.5. Every dollar of that the revenue above that 16.2, which is just the revenue generated by the standard everyday activities, that will be directed specifically to the MRF Project Capital Reserve Fund. And so we're anticipating that we'll generate between 1.5 and 1.7 million in excess of what is needed for our expenses. Again, all of that is going to the MRF Project Capital Reserve Fund to help close that gap. And we have included in the packet and here too a requested motion to approve. And I will stop my share and ask if you have questions on anything that I've discussed or anything else that you may have seen in the packet.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate all the detail you went into to share the rationale behind the jump in that fee. We can certainly sympathize with falling behind inflation with our own budgeting. Bryn, is there anything you wanted to add?
I just want to say that Sarah and the team have done an excellent job. I think the review that they've done to bring this to council in a way that is really fair and equitable, and placing the fee on the source of generation is really a wise way to do it. I'm glad to see that there's no per capita fee, and I know all of the member municipalities would agree the same. So it really places the onus on the individuals that are generating the waste in the first place. I also am really happy to see that CSWD tends to live the mission of discouraging waste by refraining from putting a fee on food waste diversion and recycling diversion as well. So I think those priorities are excellent. I think the increases have been measured, as Sarah shared, and it's still the disposal at the drop-off centers are still the cheapest way to go. If anybody's looking to manage their monthly expenses. So I really appreciate all the work that's gone into this. It's been an extremely challenging road to get here, and I know that there's been a number of unexpected challenges along the way. So the fact that we've gotten to where we are with moving the recycling facility project along is really a relief, to say the least. So very happy to share what Sarah and the team have brought forward and what the Board of Commissioners has approved to bring to the municipalities for a vote.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Laura, Thomas, any questions?
No.
No. Let me just check.
Elaine has a question.
Go ahead, Elaine.
I apologize to council and to Sarah. I did not warn this properly for approval, but I think council can give an indication today so that, Sarah, you know what's happening, and then we'll do a cleanup next time.
We can put it in consent next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Is
you,
that-
appreciate that.
Can you work around that? I think June 2nd would be the formal. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Elaine. Well, hearing no concerns, I think we can say that we are in favor of this and will approve it on the next agenda. Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. In a related item on B, which is warrant for discussion approval, is appointing our representatives to the board of Chittenden Solid Waste District. And we have Councilor Oakleaf willing to continue to serve. What have you been serving for, like 10 years? It's been a while.
I think I joined in 2017.
Okay, creeping up on it. And then Rachel Kennedy, she's been the alternate for 1 or 2 terms.
I think this will be her second term.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's willing to continue, and you've shared she's been great to work with.
She's been excellent. Yeah, absolutely. And have complete confidence in our ability to tag team if one of us is unavailable to attend. I know that she does try to join meetings that I'm available for, so that she's staying up to speed on everything. So
Right?
yeah, she's been great. Yeah.
Any questions, concerns from council? No?
No?
Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Representatives Oakleaf and Kennedy?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those abstaining?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for continuing. Okay, we are on to item C. This is the Strategic Vision Area Goal Update on Housing. Welcome, Jasmine.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Alrighty, so I feel like it's been a while since, I think it's been since January. So I think this is the final for 2020. There's another one before. Okay. Oh, okay. That's nonsensical, but okay. Okay, so second to last. Okay, so out of the 5 policy priorities that are tracked under housing, all are proceeding as planned. Changes in education for property owners and tenants for public building registry proceeding a little bit slower than planned. And then plans review is now red. So that is started but not proceeding well. So I will go through all of them individually. So changes and updates to the PBR. Once again, this has been held up a little bit just based off of staffing issues with the code team. So obviously, like, education efforts are an elective activity on top of their day-to-day. So I think maybe we'll be in a better place once new Chief Spittle has been in his position for a little bit longer, and we can meet and talk about how we want to continue working on education efforts for these changes. So the next item, continuing to explore updating ordinances to the ULUDR to address housing priorities identified by council, including renter protections. So this has an error, so I apologize. What Christine announced was correct. We did not vote, or I wouldn't have voted anyways. The Planning Commission did not vote on the last meeting for IZ. They almost did and then decided to table. So I believe the vote will be on Thursday this week,
yeah.
probably. So my apologies for that. So besides that, we've held about 5 joint meetings since 2024 discussing primarily inclusionary zoning and replacement ordinances. These have included regular meetings in addition to a developer roundtable and a developer pro forma presentation. In the last combined meeting, it was determined that the Planning Commission would move forward with the finalized draft of the IZ regulations. So if that is passed Thursday, then council should be expecting to see that sometime in July. And then due to, I don't need to read that. So just cause eviction passed again. 78% of residents voted for the measure on March 4th ballot. The representatives have reintroduced the charter change to the legislature. It is unlikely the legislature will pass the amendment during the 2025 session. It is unclear whether they pass it in 2026. Governor Phil Scott has vetoed just cause eviction charter changes in the past. So moving on to the recommended section. So the equitable housing needs assessment. As you all know, we have contracted with UVM's Center for Rural Studies team, and they have just finished phase 1, which was a literature review of relevant studies similar in nature to this project, showing research policy solutions that may prove relevant later down in the process. And then in addition to this, they've also provided the city with data spreadsheets that collects all available census data for demographic and housing specific metrics, which I think will be very useful for all sections of the city, because digging through the census data website is a challenge. And it is interesting to look at it from in more of a compiled way, because it does tell more of a narrative story when you look at all of the metrics together. So I do intend to make these reports available to housing planning, INB, city council, and then I think I will compile a memo with any noteworthy kind of conclusions from that data it's all data we've always had access to, but I think looking at it kind of in a table fashion with other metrics tells like a more compelling story, I think. So rather than have you all sift through that, I will create a memo. So once the review work is completed within the month, phase 2 will begin with discussions between UVM, CRS, and the local bidder. So this will focus on designing the broader community engagement strategy, the collection of new data, and generating and assessing policy options. So we've kept ACCD informed about delays since we are expecting to need to extend the project for another year into 2026 to give enough time to collect all of the primary data, conduct all of the focus groups and interviews, have time to actually write the report, have time for the report to go back to council and public, get feedback, bring it back, make any edits, and then have a finalized version. So that's obviously something that we don't want to rush through, but also understand that that is important data for making decisions, sometimes in the near future. So despite some of these delays, I think we're feeling good about the progress now and having finally some products related to the project. So I think there will be a lot more movement in the next couple months. For plans review, no update. I don't know if you want to add anything, no? Inform outreach efforts for airport noise mitigation program. So per the last update, 52 homes were identified for inclusion in the program in 2024. To date, 13 are either in the final stages of installation or have been completed. 7 are currently under construction and 32 homes are still pending. 9 homes have been completely insulated. However, these are all located in South Burlington. To date, all outreach construction have focused on South Burlington, where there are homes with the closest proximity to the airport. No homes have been included in the program in Burlington, Winooski, and Williston yet due to project phasing. The airport did apply for a grant for an additional 50 homes to be included in the program and won this grant. However, the amount was slightly less than the application amount. And I don't think we're still pretty far from them reaching Winooski homes. And since the last update, the noise exposure map was accepted by the FAA and was posted in local newspapers 3 times. Community members can access a map of noise and flight tracking on their website. And then I will just add city leadership and Winooski's representative on the airport commission continued to press for priority focus on outreach and implementation of this program in Winooski. So other operational updates.
You've seen it, I think, when did you send that letter? Was it before the last update or after?
Yeah, it was right before the last map update. I think like 3 times over the last couple of years now, we've provided a letter to the airport director, advocating for why we should be included. And then he has done that advocacy to the FAA, but they're pretty stuck on their concentric from the airport approach. So we'll keep making the case, but haven't had much impact yet.
At least we're trying.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Armory redevelopment project. So the National Guard, as I'm sure you're all aware, has demolished the building and is finishing up the site remediation required for them to sell the building by the end of the fiscal year. The city posted a request for proposals to find a development partner for the project. Bids closed on Monday, May 5th. One bid was submitted by Champlain Housing Trust to develop both large bedroom affordable rental units and shared equity townhomes. CHT and city staff have some concerns that we are attempting to work through with the National Guard in service of city housing priorities. So, updates to come. So the Housing Trust Fund, the Housing Commission continues improvement efforts to the Housing Trust Fund programming and will likely be shifting attention towards the down payment assistance program next. Angela and I have been working with Champlain Housing Trust on a way to utilize Winooski's existing HIP funds through the administration of CHT's home repair program. Staff have met with CHT twice in the past few months and have more meetings scheduled as we continue to prepare a proposal that can be brought to council ultimately. There are currently 2 pending HIP applications, home improvement program. Both are extremely complicated and have required extensive staff time to work through, touching multiple departments. This has reaffirmed staff's opinion that a partnership would make the home repair program more accessible to the public, administratively feasible for staff, and with a better experience for homeowners and less legal exposure for the city. Staff have also met in recent weeks several times with East Rise Credit Union as we pursue a partnership that would allow them to offer our DPA and IRB programs to their borrowers in Winooski. Many mortgages in Winooski are held by East Rise, so this would greatly increase access to our programs and amplify the impact of funds if they are paired with similar programs through East Rise. Staff are hopeful that once this partnership is established, it will be easier to expand to other banks in the area. So I think I've mentioned this before, but we were previously exclusively with Opportunities. And while that's great, there's a lot of people, I've even talked with like staff members here that were interested in the programming, but were not interested enough to get their mortgage through Opportunities. So I think East Rise is definitely the most common mortgage holder. And so we're going through this process, which is taking quite a long time, but I think will be worth it once we have a blueprint and can hopefully replicate that with like, you know, Community Bank, TD, other local banks in the area. So the reappraisal, the bulk of this work is now complete, though some remains related to participating in valuation appeals beyond the city. One of the properties appealed to the Chittenden Superior Court. The other 2 remaining appellants appealed to the Vermont Department of Taxes. They had their first hearing, and we are waiting for the decision from the PVR. The last hearing is May 22nd. So the landlord survey, the 2024-2025 landlord survey was distributed at the start of the fiscal year, and 72% of public building units are represented in the data. A data visualization here with the average rents for all units, affordable units, and market rate units is included with this memo. While the data is accurate to the best of staff's knowledge and ability to collect based on self-reporting, the rent numbers often seem low to folks who are actively looking for housing. This is largely since most affordable or highly desirable housing units are either rented through word of mouth or are continually occupied from year to year. In this case, that's 68% of respondents. So while this data represents the total rent calculations in the city, it likely does not align with what someone may find on like Zillow or apartments.com when they're looking for apartments. Just more commonly going to be like the newer buildings, those have higher turnover rates. I'm sure you all know once you find an apartment, Jen, people kind of hold on to those for as long as possible. So I think that was attached as well. So the City of Winooski Housing Commission was awarded a $1,000 grant from CVOEO to hold an accessory dwelling unit workshop series for Winooski property owners. So this series will include an informational session with presentations from VHIP, the Vermont Home Improvement Program, the CHT Director of Lending, and a representative from AARP. They do a lot of aging in place work. The first session will also include 3 panelists who have or are currently building ADUs in Winooski. The second session will be more of a technical assistance block of time where people can talk through specific properties and projects with the city's Director of Planning. That was kind of designed because a lot of people have access to a lot of information, but at the end of the day, a lot of people just kind of want to talk about their specific project, and it's not always the best place to do that, like in a panel discussion. So that's why we thought like actual time set aside with staff to work through projects with people would be useful to them. So both of these will be held in July. We have to complete them by August 1st. So the dates are still being ironed out dependent on the panelist availability. And
Pleasant
then,
surprise seeing that in here. Thank you.
oh yeah, yeah, so I'm surprised that they had the funding, but yes. So short-term rentals, so we're coming to the close of the first year. And compliance rates are still very high, especially for a brand new program. So that should not say January 3rd. So this week, the city has received 64 applications. It changes frequently. We've had 8 people withdraw their applications. I would say part of that is some people, it's people with like primary homes that they're renting out as short-term rentals when they go on vacation and don't realize that if they trigger that 14 days in a rolling year that they then would constitute as a public building. So some people have realized now that they have to do an inspection if they're renting to the public and are not interested in doing that. There are a few people who have switched to long-term rentals. I would think maybe the fee is just an incentive for them to switch to long-term if they're flipping between the two.
Sorry, Jasmine, do you know how many of those have switched?
Out of the 8, I think maybe 4 of them have. 2 of the properties sold. So who knows what will happen, but gives the opportunity for those to be their long-term or primary homes. So yeah, I think 2 or 3 sold. So yeah, it's definitely been, but again, there are a few large landlord or property owners, like big companies that have a couple of licenses. So I think that's like the most concerning of like landlords that own like thousands of units countywide, dipping their toe into the short-term rental market. I think that's concerning just because there's like so many for them to possibly flip. But yeah, so everyone's been like great to work with. We haven't really experienced any like negative situations, which I think has been really nice. So at this point, we have issued 46 out of the 64 licenses. The pending licenses are all, I think at this point, all of them are code related. So everyone is in communication. So they're working to resolve code issues. They just take a long time to schedule and repair some of these issues. So no one is completely MIA, which is great. So as was determined in the ordinance, 80% going to the Housing Trust Fund and 20% to code. So I think ultimately code will end up with about $13,000 into their budget, I think, which is over the 10 that we had projected, which is nice. And still looking at quite a big split between the two, owner occupied and non-owner occupied. We have very few owner occupied. So happy to answer any questions.
I'm gonna do a little addendum on that if I could. The fact that people have been good to work with is, I think, a testament to Jasmine's design of the project, or the ordinance, which was based on a lot of research from other communities. There are other communities that do not experience that. Like the owners are really upset about the changes. So the smoothness of how this is going, especially in light of the fact that we have code enforcement, which is also not something everybody has. Yeah, it's great work by her and also, of course, the team that has helped her get to this point.
Oh, and I will add, in June, I will be coming with a recommendation from the Housing Commission for a cap.
Jasmine, I will say I'm interested in keeping a pulse on owner occupieds who withdraw for that reason. That was a concern we had heard initially, like people trying to supplement their income. It's like a cost burden to go through inspection and maybe have to make upgrades to your home that you wouldn't have to do with.
Yes, yeah, I agree, because like that's just space that's going to be empty if someone's on vacation. Like I think it's great for someone to rent that out. Like it utilizes space that's not going to be used otherwise. I think that maybe could be a conversation with John Audie about what he thinks about that, because I know at a certain point, if you're having outside members of the public in your home, it's a public building at a certain point. So I can talk to him and see what his thoughts are on, like, if he feels that 14 days, so it's 14 total days in any rolling year, if he feels like that's like an accurate representation of like the safety side of code enforcement, of like needing to be in there to inspect that. Or if he thinks that there's wiggle room, because I agree that that's not ideal.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear from him.
As a follow-up, do we have data on what other municipalities are doing for their minimum?
We use the state definition, so
Okay.
yeah, I think everyone is
And
pretty aligned on that.
As a follow-up, we do have a hotel that's opening, hopefully in
Yes.
2027, ideally sooner if
Yes.
possible. So we also want to be mindful of what our STR policies and ordinances are as it relates to maximizing the occupancy levels for the hotel once it opens.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll just add to I'm fairly certain the state definition, the 14 days is from federal tax, income tax. Because if you rent for less than 14 days, you don't pay, it doesn't count federally. So I think that's where that basis comes. Thank you for this report, Jasmine. Did anyone have questions on anything?
Couple of follow-ups. Ideally, if schedules allow, it would be nice to space out the ADU sessions, like ideally a week.
Oh,
to
yeah,
2
yeah,
weeks
yeah.
apart.
Yeah, oh, no, they're not the same week, yeah.
And then
Give people time to like work it through at home.
just if you're able to vary like the day of the week as well.
I think it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday. We're thinking, trying to work around all the meetings.
Yeah.
I think those are the open days.
I know 7 Days offers like first-time home buyer sessions. I attended one of those
Yeah.
before I bought my house, and they had a lender, a title researcher, and a real estate agent at those as a panel, and they were well attended. There was food available. So if you're depending on location setting, flexibility, that could be something that draws in more people.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Of course, being mindful of like background noise and all that whatnot.
Yeah.
But those are relatively successful. I think haven't seen them quite as often pre-pandemic, but I think I saw one advertised recently that 7 Days was doing. So something to could look at for modeling.
Yeah. South Burlington we kind of modeled ours off South Burlington, had a pretty, granted, I don't think we will have as many people who have the space or financing to build ADUs that South Burlington might, but they had a successful event like maybe a year and a half ago now. And so Revy and I spoke with their staff about what they did and trying to emulate some of that. But it's definitely, a fine line, because people who can build ADUs are people with land and money. So it's just a different demographic than a lot of the events we do.
And just thank you for the thorough update. It's great to see all this here. I know I've had updates, as they come in, but it's nice to also have it in one place. So thanks for doing that. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We are on to item D, on for discussion or approval, the 2025-26 City Council Policy Priorities and Strategies. So we met last Thursday, had a very productive meeting to set our priorities for the upcoming year. Our goal tonight is to formally approve and adopt this to help guide us going forward. And I want to, did you get the edits in? Okay.
I did.
When the agenda first came out on Friday, some of the commission input we asked for wasn't represented, but that has since been incorporated.
Thanks.
Any questions? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the 2025-26 City Council Policy Priorities and Strategies?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And just as a reminder, now that this is set, we can start planning for commission work plans. If folks want to wait until vacancies are filled, by all means, that makes sense. But we'll have this ready to go to start planning out work for July and beyond. Okay. So that brings us to an executive session, which has been warned pursuant to state statute, section 3131A contracts. Pending or probable civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party, and confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body. I am seeking a motion to find that premature general public knowledge regarding this matter would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage because the city risks disclosing its strategy if it discusses in public.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thomas, second by Bryn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Who do I need? Okay. So we are on number 10, regular item, discussion approval, the settlement agreement with MWG. I am looking for a motion to approve this agreement as presented and authorize the city manager to sign.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Thomas, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And that is the end of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Bryn, second by Aurora. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.